Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome. I call the May 14th, 2015 meeting of the Campaign Finance Board to order. The first item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes of the March 12th, 2015 meeting. Is there a motion to adopt the minutes?
So moved. Second.
Aye, all in favor?
Aye.
The minutes are approved. The next item is a brief report from the board. Welcome again, and today's remarks represent the beginning of the public phase of the board's post-election audits for the 2013 election cycle. Reviews of campaigns with limited campaign activity have already been completed. By the end of this process, the CFB will have completed full audits for nearly 200 campaigns. I want to take a moment to acknowledge and commend the work that the CFB's audit and legal staff have done and will continue to do on this vital part of the program. These audits are essential to the health of our city's public financing program. They ensure that all candidates play by the rules. They have already ensured that 149 candidates who received more than $38 million in public funds used that money appropriately. The audits provide New Yorkers with the accountability that they expect for their investment in the political process. Turning from celebrating our program in New York City to more sobering news out of Albany. Since the board last convened, another prominent lawmaker has joined the ranks of New York State legislators charged with corruption. On May 2nd, Senate Majority Leader Dean Skelos was arrested on federal corruption charges, making him the 5th consecutive Senate Majority Leader to stand accused of criminal corruption. This development unfolds in disturbing proximity to the January arrest of Assembly Speaker Sheldon Silver. Thus, only 3 months apart and within a single legislative session, top leaders in both chambers have been arrested on federal corruption charges. New Yorkers demand to know when the egregious betrayals of their trust by their public servants will end. Despite blatant long-term patterns of misconduct, Albany remains fertile ground for corruption, and lawmakers have not taken the full action this crisis requires. In late March, lawmakers adopted a state budget containing reforms that do not go far enough and contain loopholes. There is still time for lawmakers to pass comprehensive and more robust ethics and campaign finance reforms before the end of this legislative session in June. The board hopes our representatives in Albany will take bold action needed to restore voters' trust in New York's political process. I now turn to Executive Director Amy Loprest for her report.
Thank you. The board was gratified by the decision rendered in March by Judge Richard Sullivan in the lawsuit brought by John Liu's 2013 campaign for mayor. That decision firmly upholds the CFB's ability to enforce the rules and ensure that all candidates play by them. The decision clearly states that the board's determination to withhold public matching funds from the Liu campaign had ample basis in the law. In fact, the judge acknowledged the extraordinary circumstances that informed the board's decision. Never before in the CFB's 25-year history had a campaign treasurer been convicted before the election of crimes relating to the campaign's fundraising. Notably, Judge Sullivan dismissed with prejudice the claim that the CFB had treated the Liu campaign differently than other campaigns. The court allowed a single claim to survive this ruling. As the court noted, the only remaining claim is a technical challenge to several words in a board rule that were not the basis for the board's decision not to pay the Liu campaign. Indeed, the judge wrote that the remaining claim, and I quote, is not a referendum on whether the CFB's denial of matching funds to Liu's campaign in 2013 was justified. The board has never relied on that specific portion of the board rule in its public funds determination. Nevertheless, the board wants to ensure that the rules provide the clearest possible guidance to participating candidates. The revisions proposed later in this meeting will allow the CFB to inform campaigns of reporting and documentation discrepancies earlier in the election cycle, and will make clear that the board may deny public funds for egregious conduct that is not otherwise enumerated in the rules. We are Also, I want to report that I spoke at 2 student forums, one at Harvard Law School and one at Columbia Law School, programs where students really expressed a real interest in how to improve our democracy and really looking to the New York City program as a model of encouraging small donor democracy. Rose was at the one at Columbia, and I think it was a very interesting presentation that juxtaposed the campaign finance, our campaign finance program with that of the Federal Election Commission. One of the commissioners was a co-panelist on that, at that discussion. I also want to report that we are preparing for an anticipated special election in Council District 23 after Councilmember Mark Wetburn announced he will be leaving his council seat for a position in the Cuomo administration. And finally, I'm pleased to announce that we have 2 new training initiatives. Starting next week, we will be conducting webinars on the statement review process. Also, we have introduced an in-person training seminar called New to the CFB. This seminar was developed based on feedback from candidates and treasurers through our 2013 post-election survey and from recommendations from them on the board after they attended our compliance training. The seminar focuses on new potential candidates and gives them a broad overview on what to expect in running campaign and working with the CFB. I want to thank our Candidate Services Unit, which is led by Dan Cho, for these new training initiatives, and particularly I'd like to commend Jack Beeson and Julia Taylor, who worked on these 2 new training initiatives.
Thank you, Amy. And now we're going to hear a report from our VAC Chair, Art Cheng.
Great. Thank you very much. VAC, the Voter Assistance Advisory Committee, issued its annual report on April 30th. And on May 5th, we held both our regular meeting as well as a hearing on that report. At that meeting, a number of things were reported that of interest. First, we reported on an extraordinarily successful Voter Advocacy Day held up in Albany. What we do every year is we bring a bus or buses full of volunteers to go and actually meet with legislators in Albany to advocate for a few initiatives. This year, nearly 100 volunteers participated from over 22 partner organizations, community, civic, and education groups. And we met with over 32 legislators and focusing around 3 legislative priorities. First, expand online voter registration. Second, enact better ballot design. Third, implement early voting. This was done with the sponsorship and assistance of Senator Kevin Parker and Assemblyman Brian Kavanaugh, and was recognized in the Senate session and the Assembly session as well. So congratulations to everybody who worked on that. We also had a couple changes on the committee. I just want to thank Tony Casino in public for his service on the committee. He was an invaluable liaison and strategist helping us with our legislative affairs up in Albany. And we also welcomed 2 new members to the committee by appointment from the mayor, Arnie Segarra, who is a member of the New York City Human Rights Commission, and through the Council Speaker, Mazeda Udin, who is the National Women's Coordinator for the Alliance of South Asian American Labor. So we now have a full committee, and we're really looking forward to an even better year this year. I really want to thank our head of the Voter Assistance Unit, Anita Coward-Mayers, for her leadership and in pulling all this together. I think it's notable that over the years that I've chaired this committee, the coalition of civic groups that have come together to work with us on these voter outreach efforts has grown. And this year, leading to this year setting a record over 35,000 voter registration obtained by this group. So congratulations, Anita, and everybody else who's worked on this.
Thank you so much, Art, as always. And now we'll be taking matters up in executive session. Is there a motion to go into executive session to discuss penalties, litigation, and other matters?
Second.
All in favor, the board will go into, all in favor, the board will go into executive session. All right, good morning again. Is there a vote to adopt the penalty recommendations of the staff?
Okay, and the recommendations are as follows. Andrew Cohen, a candidate in City Council District 11, an infraction, no penalty for accepting an over-the-limit contribution, a $500 penalty for failing to demonstrate compliance with intermediary reporting and documentation requirements, a $213 penalty for making impermissible post-election expenditures for total recommended penalties of $713. Robert Jackson, a candidate in the 2013 elections for Manhattan Borough President, violation, no penalty for accepting an over-limit contribution, a $400 penalty for accepting contributions from corporations, limited liability companies, or partnerships, a $125 penalty for accepting a contribution from an unregistered political committee for total penalties of $525, and William Ruiz, a candidate in City Council District Number 32 in the 2013 elections, a $500 penalty for failing to provide bank statements, an $85 for failing to demonstrate compliance with cash receipts, reporting, and documentation requirements, a $125 penalty for failing to demonstrate compliance with reporting requirements for disbursements, a $500 penalty for failing to report and document basic campaign functions and activities, a $250 penalty for late response to audit documentation and information requests, a $500 penalty for failing to respond to audit documentation and information requests in the draft audit report. The previous one was for failing to respond to the initial document request, for total recommended penalties of $1,960. And finally, James Baca, candidate in 2013 for City Council District 13, a violation, no penalty for failing to provide bank statements, a $125 penalty for accepting over-the-limit contributions, a $225 penalty for accepting a contribution from a limited liability partnership, and $250 for accepting contributions from unregistered political committees for total penalties of $600.
Is there a motion to adopt the penalty recommendations?
So moved.
Second.
Aye.
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 All in favor?
Aye.
Recommendations are adopted. And you're now going to hear a statement from General Counsel Sue Ellen Dudell.
Thank you and good morning.
Good morning.
The staff recommends that the board vote to issue for public comment 2 proposed amendments to the board's rules. The first proposed amendment is an addition to Board Rule 3-03, which governs the content of disclosure statement submissions. The new provision would require that disclosure statements be accompanied by all of the campaign committee's bank records and deposit slips not previously submitted, and provide that statement submissions may be rejected if not accompanied by such records. Currently, such records are submitted upon request of the CFB, usually during the post-election audit process. This change will allow the CFB to inform campaigns of reporting and documentation discrepancies earlier in the election cycle, which will both enable campaigns to correct such discrepancies, thus improving the quality of public disclosure and facilitate the timely resolution of problems that might otherwise lead to violation and/or penalty determinations. Additionally, it will relieve the burden on campaigns to maintain and store a high volume of bank records throughout the pre-election period. The second proposed amendment is to Board Rule 501F, which governs eligibility to receive public funds. The amendment would remove the phrase, quote, "for reasons that include but are not limited to," unquote, from the introduction to this section. Add one criterion to the list of reasons why the board may determine that a candidate is ineligible to receive public funds, and reorder the list. The new addition to the list would be that a participating candidate or that candidate's agent has, quote, "engaged in conduct severely detrimental to the program," unquote. This change is intended to clarify that the purpose of the provision is to capture egregious conduct whose specific elements are not enumerated elsewhere in the list, but that would nonetheless provide sufficient justification for the board to determine that the candidate who engaged in such conduct is ineligible to receive public funds. Pursuant to Section 1043 of the New York City Charter, the proposed rules will be published in the city record, and after a public comment period, the board will hold a public hearing for anyone who wishes to testify. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Is there a motion to issue the proposed rules for comment?
So moved.
Second.
Aye, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passed. Anything else? Is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Aye, all in favor?
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned. Thank you for coming.